country and 6 years of power, the Prime Minister blames the citizens of this nation for failed diversification. It is not we, the people, in charge.
In the image of the United National Congress, the Member of Parliament for Pointe-a-Pierre, Dr. David Lee.
Good night as I join you on our Monday night virtual once again. Once again, brothers and sisters, this opposition, your opposition, is vindicated once again. Again, our concerns have been proven right as we confirm to the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago that regardless of the political spin being put forward by this government, Atlantic Train 1 is dead. The evidence is clear. The media reports are damning. It is not as the Prime Minister has stated that, I quote, that the doctor is putting on his coat, but rather Train 1 is waiting to be buried. It is time this government ends its lies, deceit, and misleading statements. On Friday, when I asked the Prime Minister in Parliament, tell us what supply of gas would be utilized until a decision is made on Train 1, according to the Prime Minister, in March 2022. He couldn't list a single sort of gas. Citizens, it is clear. Atlantic Train 1 will not be able to operate. Since 2019, this government has been mamagaing the population, hiding the true reality about Train 1. Since 2019, when BP informed them that there was no more gas for Train 1, this government downplayed it, telling the nation gas would come. To date, we are still waiting for that gas. In 2021, every time we demanded answers, they misled us, telling us that negotiations were at a sensitive stage and things are confidential, hiding behind these words and not to account to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. They even went so far as to list gas projects such as the Manatee and the Calypso, knowing fully well these projects are 5 years away from becoming operational, if at all. Upon returning from the United Kingdom, the Prime Minister sought to give us a sad story on his return, as if he had only now received clarity from BP and Shell that they had no gas for Train 1. The Prime Minister was fully aware when he entered that boardroom that Train 1 was dead on arrival, as the companies had told him back in 2019 and reminded him again in December 2020 that there was no gas for Train 1. Train 1 benefited this nation for over 20 years until its contract came to an end in 2018 pending renewal. However, shareholders faced different conditions in 2020. They could find no economic, financial, business reason to continue the Train 1 contract because they simply had no gas. This was a direct result of this government's failure to create an environment over the last 6 years underneath their tenureship to increase gas production in this country. The suppliers simply had no gas for Train 1. As a country, we must ask, with the largest gas producer in Trinidad and Tobago, BP, saying that they have no gas for Train 1, why would NGC opt to invest $240 million of your money in a turnaround? The fact is, both the NGC and the government saw this as a perfect opportunity to cover up the massive losses the NGC was making since the Houston negotiation in 2017. Since 2017, the NGC has been struggling to conclude contracts with downstreamers because of the high price of gas that the Prime Minister and the Minister of Energy agreed to in Houston. Hence the reason we saw NGC record, for the first time in its history, a $2 billion+ loss in 2020, for the first time in our history of NGC. We will not allow this government to spin a false narrative that the investment was made with the hope of keeping the plant alive for future gas. They were fully aware that this Train 1 rescue package defied logic, it violated fiduciary duty, and contravened industry ethics. It was truly irresponsible, as reports suggest that the president of NGC, Mark Loquan, and vice president of commercial, Ms. Kwanvi, sought to base the company's 100% investment in Train 1 turnaround on unused gas from the plants at Point Lisas, which had opted to implement something called the economic shutdown clause of their contract. It is unthinkable that individuals who were hired to ensure the proper operations of the company would base a multi-million-dollar decision on the view that plants such as Stringent, and I spoke about Stringent, MHTL, and Yara would remain shut down all of 2021. Unthinkable. This raises serious questions on the integrity of the national gas company. How can the only aggregator of gas work to undercut the downstream companies in Point Lisas? Those companies have been very successful for this country. The population must not believe for 1 minute that was an investment gone wrong. It was wrong from the start. That is the investment in Atlantic Train 1 turnaround. Mark Loquan and the government must have known from the very start that this rescue package was a waste of taxpayers' dollars. They took a gamble, my brothers and sisters. When the board was first approached on December 2nd, 2020, to approve the rescue package, which is the turnaround, they refused, as they were unsatisfied or unsure that the company had the supply of gas. On December 3rd, 2020, BPTT wrote to NGC, reminding them of their inability to supply gas to Train 1 and warned them to take this shortfall into consideration before funding Train 1. BPTT told NGC. On December 4, 2020, with no offtake contract guaranteed and basing the gas supply on unutilized gas, Loquan convinced the board to approve this reckless decision. How could the board, NGC board, change its mind in 1 day? Did someone in the government intervene? It reminds me of the Police Service Commission. Whatever the reason, there's a clear indication that Loquan, the NGC board, and the government were well aware of the risk and acted irresponsibly in our view. The salt in the wounds of every taxpayer of this nation is the manner in which the directors of NGC selfishly sought indemnity after they acted irresponsibly against the citizens of this nation. In September of 2021, just a couple months ago, I asked the Prime Minister a question in Parliament. If the government had indemnified the NGC board, and the Prime Minister said no, but the government would consider it if they did a request. Today I ask the Prime Minister, have you indemnified the NGC board? There were clear signs that the $240 million in the turnaround, or as I should put it, $34 million US by the Prime Minister, was always going to fail. So in December, Loquan made the board, the NGC board, agree to invest millions of dollars as he convinced them that they would get gas supply, yet months later, not a drop of gas. While the Prime Minister stands in Parliament to say that negotiations are still continuing to discuss the operations of Train 1, all the other shareholders, BP and Shell, have decided the fate already. All the other shareholders of Train 1, except NGC, have agreed to declare Train 1 closed. As a matter of fact, the blinds, as they say, are up on the plant, which means the plant is effectively closed. While the Prime Minister tries to give some fairy tale about the future operations of this plant, BP and Shell have told this government they will not fund any future costs of the plant. Even Samasoka, and I want you to pay attention to that company name, Samasoka, the Chinese shareholder, has also declared that there was no business case to justify future injections of money into the plant. Never forget the billions of dollars lost in world GTL, yet Jones was not only let off, but scot-free, but rewarded. Today, Mark Loquan is becoming the new Malcolm Jones, because every day he remains as a paid president of NGC, he's being rewarded for the chaos and crisis at NGC. The crisis facing the NGC now is not one of failure by this government, but rather it is a part of the entire roadmap of deceit and destruction of the energy sector. This government has run our energy sector based on lies, mismanagement, and total ignorance of what is needed to propel the major sector needed to support our nation. Before election 2015, they promised you a stable energy sector. 6 years later, we are struggling. We have a struggling energy sector. And the only hope for them is higher oil and gas prices. That is their vision. They promised you more oil and gas, yet today, we are at our lowest ever level of production. Under their watch, the most plants have been shut down and the worst FDIs have ever been recorded in this country, demonstrating the calamitous collapse of the once robust energy sector that we had. But the biggest betrayal has been Petrotrin. Remember when he said we're not closing down Petrotrin? And then a couple of weeks after he closed down Petrotrin, they fooled the population with an election promise also of giving Petrotrin to the union. Today, that refinery may never reopen, and it is left in a dismal state of affairs. We in the opposition will not allow this government to sweep this debacle of NGC away. Prime Minister, this money that has been wasted is no small amount. It is $240 million of taxpayers' money, which could have been used to better the lives of the people of our country. $240 million could have given us repaired roads. $240 million could have generated hundreds of jobs. $240 million could have helped the families in Bellevue, in my constituency, who lost their homes due to indiscriminate quarrying. This government has damaged the energy sector, erasing decades of progress to the point they have endangered future generations and the economic stability of our nation. I want to say thank you, my brothers and sisters. Long live United National Congress. I thank you.